So this is a special rig rundown for us because it got me, Perry, and Jared out of the 615 and took us down to Birmingham, Alabama to hang out with Fall Out Boy. We had done one with them 10 years ago. John Bollinger hosted that one. And so it was fun to see what they were working with. Last time they had a full tube amp pedal board situation. This time, as you can imagine, to scale things down and simplify and then also get production dialed in, they're running modelers. Let you figure that out by watching the rundown. But what was cool for me is a fan, I had seen them in the early 2000s as they ascended, out of the dirty rock clubs that they played in Iowa City, where I saw them at Gabe's Oasis, probably 250 people. They're now playing arenas and have been for years, but they still carry that punk rock mantra where they don't have boats and boats of guitars. Joe has 2 or 3 main ones, a backup, I believe, which is his old Squier T-style Telly, and then Patrick has a few guilds. He's moved on from the Gretsch, still loves them, but yeah, he's moved on to these weird vintage 70s guilds that he painted over, as you'll see in the rundown. But Pete, in Pete fashion, brings the firework literally with a flame-throwing bass and a snow globe bass. So all sorts of cool treats to check out, and I'm sure you guys are gonna love it, just like I did filming it. Hey everyone, this is Chris Kies for Premier Guitar. Today we're taking a field trip to Birmingham, Alabama at the Legacy Arena, and I'm joined by the gentleman of Fall Out Boy. Patrick, how are you doing?
I'm good, how you doing?
Real good. I know that we both had some road struggles coming down here from I-65, yeah. But we have made it. You guys did sound check. Our drum rundown host, Jared James, just talked to Andy Hurley, covering the whole band. So let's get to it. What do you have and what do you want to share with us?
On this tour, starting on the first leg of this tour, I decided to just I have a lot of vintage stuff, and my contract with Gretsch was up, and I was like, I'm gonna just bring my stuff. And so most of what I end up playing at home ends up being, well, not most of, but a lot of what I end up playing at home ends up being guilds. And so I had this idea to try and monochrome them too. So this was...
Yeah, this isn't a factory paint job.
Yeah, well, it was kind of a bad paint job. I bought it that way. I bought it red, and I was like, well, that's fun. And then so Daniel and I were sourcing, as many red components as we could to try and make it all one. We did that with a few of them, but I just kind of really like the S60 and S300 body design, and then in general, the scale length is interesting. It means different than my Gretches. That's one of the reasons I wanted to switch. Was my Gretches are a lot more comfortable in the studio. I have pretty small hands, but as a function of that, the shorter scale length, I tend to get the slightest bit more, it doesn't hold tune quite as well.
Okay.
In a live setting, and especially we have all of them. We put these little, drop tuners on.
Yeah.
Because really on a good night, I don't really have to change a guitar at all. So we don't, the tuning stays enough that I can just swap that and that holds.
And we did that interview with you guys in 2014 when you were running just electro. Your electro signature, electromagnetic or mad.
Yeah.
What is it?
Stump-o-matic,
What is Megatron pickups in the Gretsch.
Yeah.
But you had 3 of them, so it's never been like a thing where you brought out a huge collection.
Yeah, well, I
never
really did. And the thing is that the 3 pickup, again, it was kind of a studio thing that I really liked switching between it. But I'm singing, I have to play rhythm, and I'm also having to jump back and forth between instruments a lot.
Yeah.
So the 3 pickup thing, I didn't make enough use of it on stage. So I kind of wanted something more simplified. Again, the 60D only has the 3 knobs. I think the 300 has more of like a Gibson 4 knob thing, I think.
Okay, like double tone, double master volume.
But I really don't need that much when I'm especially for what I end up doing rhythmically. I try to kind of streamline this. So much of the singing is so difficult that I don't want to be, futzing with pedals and futzing with, my knob setup too much. I'll roll off a little bit here and there, or I'll swap, pickups a couple times in the set. But in general, I kind of want to set and forget because I have so much going on, So, and that's another function of the scale length, is that I find that between that and we put like 11s on, I feel like it holds tune really well. It's funny because I don't really play. I tend to play my Gretches more in the studio now than I do on tour. It's like these like they're more tanks, you know. so and they're you know, they're old 70s guitars. So and we put
Say pickup wise, are they the original pickups?
no, we put DiMarzio, I think it's Super Distortions in the bridge, and then the neck is the Little 59, I think.
Oh, okay.
And we kind of, you know, tried a bunch of different ones and played around, and that was just kind of what we landed on. But I have a bunch. I've just been collecting these because I can get them on, you know, trying to get them on tour, you know.
For now.
So yeah, it's just fun.
So what do you gravitate towards when it comes to a different guitar? Is it aesthetically, like the shape draws you in, or are you trying to find different sonics?
Well, I mean, sonics are important. That was one thing, is that I did notice, depending on the amplifier, I could get the slightest bit too much like twang with the Gretsch, like almost, you know, the pickups had like the slightest bit of like that kind of spanky brightness.
Yeah.
And I didn't always really want that, especially because, you know, where I end up sitting as the rhythm guitarist, more or less. That's one of the things too, is that in the past, is that I'll take a little diversion, but Joe and I used to really split up, you know, by song, because stylistically we're just very different players. I do a lot more hammer-on stuff, and he does a lot more bend stuff. And so it would be kind of like lead-wise, we were both the lead guitar player, and we would just kind of split. And that sucked. It sucked to sing and have to do that. There were these songs where I'm doing all these taps and having to belt. You know, it was like it was too much. And at this point, we've both grown as players enough and as people enough where I can, you know, where he can play all this stuff, and I'm like comfortable to be like, yeah, you know, you do it. And so because of that streamlined a lot of the tone too, where I don't really want that much brightness. You know, I'm going to be sitting underneath, you know, I'm really sitting between Joe and Pete tonally. So I kind of want something that sits more in that Gibson world anyway, you know, you know, sonically. So it's kind of, you know, what do I gravitate towards? I gravitate towards whatever works for the project. You know, the band, when we tour, this has really been working for me. So I'm like, you know, ain't broke, you know.
Yeah.
And then also, I mean, I want reliable. I want something that stays in tune. That's a really big thing. I want something that, you know, I get comfortable with the scale length. I get comfortable with the fretboard. These are all pretty similar. Guilds in the 70s I think the build quality is pretty uniform, which I like. So are the Gretches.
Yeah.
But it's, you know, a different instrument, you know. So, you know, that's kind of been my thing. And there's also just like, you know, I can't remember. I think it was one of Paul McCartney's guitar players was saying something about bringing out, you know, vintage guitars, bringing out like, you know, classic guitars. And he was like, you know, now I'm on tour with Paul McCartney. He's like, what am I waiting for? The Pope? You know, like what's the thing where you're like, oh, you know, what am I gonna use this guitar for? Like, yeah, I should bring out the guitars that I have. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna bring out the guitars I have. You know, so I started.
Now, have you always traveled in this capacity? Turning, you know, we got looks like 4 electrics and an acoustic. It's kind of, or have you been one of those guys that had double boats, 12 guitars, changing every song?
I always wanted to have it. I try to be as minimal as possible. I really don't like to have too many options because I tried that for a while, and it got to be pretty overbearing. So, and one of the things is that starting on the first leg of this tour, I switched over to Neurals. Up to this point, I was using oranges, which I loved. And it kind of took me, you know, I was a hard sell to move over to digital, but
yeah, because Joe was first.
Yes, he was first, and he's been talking about it for years, and I was like, I was kind of salty about it because I really like tubes, you know, I like the real thing.
What do you like about that?
There's something that just is there, you know, that you put the mic in front of it, and you put the mic in front of that speaker, and because we have this little speaker box, I can't remember who made them, but where the speaker faces inward, and it kind of has a boxy thing, but it still felt real, you know. You could just tell there's that natural slap. It's subtle, but it's all those things that like it feels more tactile. And I really, it took a long time. We did one tour where I tried like a Line 6, and this was, you know, like decades ago, but almost, you know. And I wasn't really sold yet. I was like, no, this isn't there yet. And Joe had started moving into more digital stuff, and I was like, yeah, this is pretty great. And then Neural, I'd been using a lot of Neural in the studio for when I started doing the. I've been scoring, film and TV stuff. When I moved into TV, especially, I went in with these bright eyes, like, oh, I'm gonna play everything, and I'm gonna set all the mics and everything, and I'm really gonna record this. You have a 2-week schedule. You have to turn around an entire episode every 2 weeks. You have 25 to 50 episodes. And
you're just trying to capture that lightning of the idea.
Yeah. You don't have time for any of that. So it's one of those things where, and sometimes there'll be recalls. So you'll play something, and then you'll be like, okay, great, and then the studio will be like, yeah, the guitar's a little heavy. Can you? And I'm like, so the first. At the beginning, I was like, I would have to go back and replay everything. And then I just started switching over to Neural anyway in the studio. So then when it came up that we could, when the Quad Cortex came out, I was like, okay, let's try this.
What's the mental gap that you have to bridge creating a record with the guys at Fall Out Boy and then now scoring television and movie stuff like that? You're still doing music, you're still, but what's the difference where you're trying to the bridge?
It's weird because it's actually kind of similar in a lot of ways, because one of my things that I do is I interpret for somebody else, like, so Pete, we're a weird band because Pete's the primary lyricist, but he's not the singer or the songwriter, right? And when I say he's a lyricist, it's really hard to describe. He just writes words. It's not like he gives me a melody or anything. There's no note at all.
Yeah.
It's literally just like I look at some words and I have to kind of get inspired, and I have to kind of, pull it out of him somehow. Pull out like, does this sound good? Whatever. And I think that really primed me for film and TV scoring, because it's very similar where, a director will be like, yeah, I want something more, more blue. And you're like, okay, let's see, And so musically it ends up being, it's kind of a similar experience, but it is a lot more 9 to 5. It's a lot more, so I had to, my speed became really, really important. And so that's one of the things when we started discussing, like I said, I was the last holdout on physical amplifiers, but I was like, okay, this is what I'm using a lot in the studio now for in the scoring stuff. We didn't use any, I don't think we used anything on the record. Neil is very, he's got his amps and he knows his amps.
Yeah.
Like he knows his personal heads that he has, he keeps them in the exact shape that, he's had them. So we know those heads, and the record is all, tube amps.
Speaking of tactile and tangible stuff, you guys, and this has been going on for years, not running anything on stage cab-wise. Has that been a learning curve for you? You being a performer where you're literally, we checked, sound check. The only one thing we could hear is Andy.
I love it.
Really?
I love it because it's one of those things where
so no speakers and no cabs.
No speakers. One of the
but
things
tubes are a thing you need to hang on
to. The sound. I feel like they sound more natural. Like there's always going to be that. It's like, look, when you get to a buddy of mine and I did a shootout of a bunch of U-47s, right? We did like we had a couple. We were over by Vintage King and we had a couple real ones, a couple vintage 47s with the VF14 and everything, and then we had a bunch of clones. And the thing that was really fascinating was, a lot of the clones, we did this blind. I sang into them, and then we kind of played them back for the room or whatever. And a few of those clones got really close. And so the jumps would be like here to here, but then the jump from here to the real thing, there was a noticeable difference, but it was so fine. It was kind of one of those things where like it definitely made a huge difference, but it was like just that top layer. That's how I feel about amps, where it's like I love the Neurals. But like, I still think a real amp, it's that little magic up above.
Okay.
But there's kind of a, in a studio when you have that time to sit and set everything, and you can place the mic for 4 hours or whatever, and we do that. It definitely pays dividends. But when you don't have that time and you need something reliable, I'm like, the digital's pretty great. The other thing I like is that. A lot of these rooms, there's so much slapback, there's so much, there's so many cross frequencies and things. There's so much that you're contending with. When we used to have speakers or monitors, anything on stage, it was just more You know, it was just more noise.
Almost confusion.
So, yeah. So now I have. First off, my volume gets to be really quiet. Actually, my inner volume is pretty low, which is great for my ears. My ears never ring at the end of the night. You know, that's like, which is amazing. It's amazing to get to play a room like this and then come home and be like, oh, you know, it's quiet. It's nice. And then the other thing is that I have a lot more control of things like, you know, in louder rooms and more verby rooms, that kind of stuff. I tend to lose my fundamental. I don't really have perfect pitch. I have all my pitch is, you know, referential. It's all, you know. So if I for example, Dance Dance, right? You know, it's just Pete at the beginning. If the room is eating up some of his lower frequencies, I'm really hearing maybe the third or the fifth. I'm hearing, you know, whatever, and so I start singing to that. Yeah. Again, because there's nothing else to reference. It's the only melodic instrument in that first section. And until Joe comes in, there have been nights, you know, on really, really bad nights, I'll start singing, and then Joe will come in, and I'm like like a fifth off, you know, like whatever, and I have to jump down. And so I like, you know, it's really important to me to prevent that. So stage volume, you know, quiet stage volume is like huge for that. You know, like having speakers, you'll never beat that in a room. I don't think there's any question that, you know, technology is amazing and the things we can do, but there's still always going to be something about, you know, a tube when it warms up, you know, when that head is going and that speaker is vibrating, that air in the room is special and magical. But if you can't have that, you know. And
it's also the performance too that you're trying to bring to the audience, because it's like, I've seen you guys for over 20 years. Gabe's Oasis, Iowa City, Iowa. So it's like, I've seen what you guys have come, and now it's full circle. You're playing arenas now. I bet you, you know, when you did interviews in 2002, 2003 on that circuit, you couldn't imagine playing to in-ear monitors, even though that wasn't really a thing. But like, you know what I mean? Like playing arenas.
No, I mean, it's funny, you know, talking about those days.
You got pyro.
Yeah, it's pyro. I mean, but I used to set my mix, my monitor mix was literally just, so much would go wrong in those you know, early days. You show up, you know, first off, a lot of times, you know, stuff wasn't grounded and stuff wasn't, you know, the you know, literally we would go from venue to venue and the amps would sound different because, like, you know, the voltage was all wrong. Yeah. You know, like whatever in some of these dive bars and stuff, you know. And so I just basically, I was like, this is the bare minimum that I need to function. We don't have time, you know, we're opening, you know, we have like a 20-minute set. We have to get on stage and we have to play right now. I don't have any time to screw around, so this is the absolute bare minimum that I need to be able to play a show. And now we have so much control of it, you know, we get to, you know, we can get on stage and we can, you know, debate with our you know, monitor guy about, you know, Rob is amazing, and we can actually get into fine details where I can be like, oh yeah, can we scoop, you know, 500 here? I feel like, you know, like whatever, we can actually do that stuff. And it's like, that was unimaginable in those days, you know what I mean? Because you're just like, okay, I want to hear on note, and I want it to not feed back at me. Like, that's pretty much it.
In the back of your mind, you're still thinking like, did we unload the last box on merch?
So it's just sitting out there, you know? Yeah, we used to, there's this place, the Continental in New York, and there was no parking anywhere for like miles. And so it was always one of those things where somebody would have to stand at the van. One of our friends would just have to stand at the van with the hazards on for like the whole show. That's the vibe. So it was like, you know, those are your concerns, you know, versus now, you know, we can really get into, you know, like the actual production of it. And I'm amazed at the, you know, sometimes I'll go out and I'll be able to hear kind of what we sound like a little bit, you know, and it's just wild. It's wild how different some of the shows you would have seen, you know, like, you know, from here, again, you know, from here to here, we're not talking the 47 range. This is like, you know.
Well, before we get on to Joe's setup, I do want to touch on a guitar that it sounds like it was a new arrival. Oh, yeah. It's a very radical color. Can you bring it out and talk to us about it real quick?
So I reached out to these guys at Halo Guitars. It was really just totally random. I was like, I want to have something made. And we had a paint scheme and it didn't work out. Actually, this was not what we want. What either of us had talked about.
Yeah.
But I love the guitar a lot.
But what were some of, because obviously there's some stuff that's sticking out.
Yeah,
so please tell me what you asked for.
Well, so I'd been doing a film that had a lot of like hair metal. And
was it like an Yngwie biopic?
Yeah, it needed some stuff. So I was like, I'm gonna go nuts. I did scallops. This is a shorter length because if I'm doing lead stuff, it really helps me a lot. This is one of my first ever Floyd Roses.
Really?
Yeah, I haven't really done a lot of any of that.
What's your initial reaction to it?
I actually like it a lot, but it's not really applicable to Fall Out Boy. I can't really.
Not yet.
Not yet. So
I mean, we never know.
Yeah, you never know. Yeah. So Daniel and I were talking about we're gonna just like kind of temporarily hardtail this for this tour.
Okay.
We're gonna put like a block in there just because I can't. It's not. I can't chug on it. But this is the kind of stuff that, it's such fine detail stuff as a player where it's like I would need to spend years to be comfortable.
Yeah.
As comfortable as I am with a hardtail bridge at this point. So we're gonna kind of swap this over to being tour ready.
But you plan on putting this on stage?
Yeah, I'm gonna play
cool.
it. Yeah, I'm gonna try it. It's fun. I like playing it. It looks fun. So and
the dimebucker.
Yeah.
The bridge.
Yeah. And I got to. Kind of, it's all bespoke, so I got to make it kind of what I wanted. So it's fun.
And I think the last one you got in there real quick is the Martin.
Yeah, so Martin, I think, it's got a sticker over it because for years I had the Fender deal and I didn't want to
upset
I think I was allowed to, but I still, Fender was great to me. Gretsch was great to me. Like I said, it's not like I'm not happy with them. It's just I don't.
Stop picking sides, Patrick.
Yeah, man. I like guitars. I like a lot of, there's a lot of different great guitars.
I think there's people out there that feel the same way.
I like some guitars. And so this one, I bought this thing randomly at like a Guitar Center like 20 years ago. Like just
really?
Almost. I mean, not quite. No, it wasn't. I didn't have that much money back then. I couldn't afford a guitar back then. But maybe maybe like 15 years ago or something. Just randomly, I saw it. I picked it up, and I didn't really think anything of it. I was like, we needed an acoustic, and there was something that I wanted. I specifically wanted that kind of like on a song. I've got all this ringing. There's a song on one of our records called "I Got All This Ringing in My Ears and None of My Fingers," and I wanted to overdub that kind of like DI'd acoustic sound that like that really weird kind of plunky plastic kind of sound. And this has a it has an input as well as being a real acoustic. It sounds pretty good when you mic it, but you can also get that thing that like 90s kind of like whatever. And so I bought it kind of on a whim, and it just became my acoustic. It sounds really good on stage. We've tried a bunch of other ones, and for whatever reason it's been really dependable. It doesn't feed back a lot. That's an issue that we have a lot with acoustics. And I've tried a few, and I've never really there's kind of this this weird space where it's like you get the tone right, but then you're getting the sound hole and you're getting all the noise and everything. Yeah, and so we went back and forth, and this ended up being this has just kind of lived forever. I probably ought to take the tape off, but I don't want to ruin the paint job now at this point.
You've already started a war.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Patrick, I know we got to get going on to Joe's setup, and you guys have a show to put on, but thank you again for your time.
Yeah.
Appreciate it,
Thanks for having me.
Hey, I'm John.
Chris.
And I'm Barry.
And this is the Rig Rundown team, and we're sponsored by
Dario.
Actually, I think it's pronounced Dario.
It's D'Addario, but no matter how you say it, we know it stands for quality. We are joined now by Joe. Joe, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Real good, man. Thank you for talking to us. You have a huge boat, but only 4 instruments, so we'll cruise right through them, man.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the one that you've been playing most, your Tech Ben, Dutiful Tech.
Yeah.
Let us know that if you could, you kind of would play one guitar all night. Other than maybe like you have this Explorer we'll get to, but the Zemaitis one kind of is the showrunner.
It is.
If you could bring it out and show it to us, that'd be great.
show the showrunner. This is it. Okay, I'm just making sure they kind of look the same from the back. This is it. You know, as at least I think some people know, it's a Japanese-made guitar based off of a non-Japanese-made guitar that runs probably, I mean, not this one. Those ones run 6 figures probably.
Yeah.
And I hear like super temperamental and just kind of awful to deal with. So this is not. This is phenomenal. It's actually somebody's signature model.
Oh, that's right. Ben was saying that.
Hisashi. He's a Japanese guitar player. I'm sure. I should have spent some time researching his playing. So I've been playing Zemaitis guitars off and on for a long time.
What originally drew you to him? It had to have been the metalwork, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, I knew about the originals, and then, like, I mean, over a decade ago, we were in Japan. I don't know if we were doing Summer Sonic or playing our own shows.
Okay.
But they invited me to their factory,
cool.
which was, like, this cool, like, have you ever been to Tokyo?
We have, actually.
Okay, so, you know, like, every single establishment has, like, incredibly cool old vintage. This one had like a vintage motorcycles on the inside, just like all sorts of like wild, interesting stuff that had like nothing to do with guitars, and then also incredible guitars and like their craftsmanship's fantastic.
Every floor is a different thing in Tokyo. Like where it comes to stores, it's like you just keep going upstairs, you'll find something different.
Yeah, something you can't afford too. And so, so this is probably over 10 years ago, and I definitely could not afford one of these guitars, and they gave me, not this one, but they gave me one, and I felt like they gave me $1 million, and I love that guitar. I've used it a lot. I used it actually not on a lot of Fall Out Boy stuff, but I used it with a lot of Damned Things stuff. I actually used it like it was the only guitar I used on the last Damned Things record, and I played it live. Not the only guitar, but pretty much. Most of the guitar on that record was that guitar.
What do you dig about it that's kind of the one where you went to with the Damn Things?
I mean, it just plays so well.
Yeah.
I have small hands, so the smaller the neck, the easier. And then, like, obviously pickups are interchangeable, but it sounded good as is. And then I believe I just put like a PAF in the bridge, like a DiMarzio.
Okay.
And, like simple, like, I think I used to overthink everything. Like one thing I said to Ben, my tech, was like, well, if they look at my amp, it's going to be the most boring rig rundown. It's just like a fractal and just a fractal, board that runs it. Because I used to have so many tube amps and so many pedals. Yeah, the Sun amps and all the pedals, and it just broke all the time.
What was the straw that broke the? So it was just the practicality of it. What finally made you go in the waters of digital?
It was the practicality. It was, you never knew which patch cable broke that night. And when you're like relying on parts you wrote that are very effects driven, and then you just have to plug directly into your amp, and all of a sudden, like, it's like revealing what the Edge's guitar part really is. You're like, it's fine, it's cool. I'm not hating on it. I love the Edge. Sorry, the Edge. I'm not saying any.
Mr. Edge, we're sorry.
Sorry, Mr. Edge. But it is.
It's like what those song parts require. So it's like if it's in the recording, people expect that, and then when it goes dry, it's a punch to the face.
It's a punch to the face to you as the player, but also the Wizard of Oz of all of it. We're like, oh, it's just some like crappy man. Which is, I'm trying to hide behind a bunch of sounds so people don't see I'm a crappy man. It's that, and also like when Ben started teching for me, he's a big like fractal wizard, and he really like sold me on it. And as the like different iterations of that amp have come out, it just sounded better and better and better and better. It was a bit flat.
Yeah.
Then I think we're on is it the 3? Yes, I can see it.
3.
We're on the 3. And it's just like, my mind has officially been blown. I'm like, I just don't need it.
It's funny.
I don't need an amp.
He talked to us about the slow migration. It was like, first it was kind of like a backup rig that he would slowly kind of like put into your system in terms of like, here, try this for this like routine, and then slowly you couldn't tell the difference. You just enjoyed it, and it was like, then it was just efficient, and it was like, and now here you are. It sounds like you worked Patrick over to get to the digital land.
I think the whole band. I mean, other than Andy, I got to get Andy on V drums, But it was like geriatric resistance. It's like, I have a recording studio at home. I run an API desk. I run a bunch of old tube amps and pedals, and that's fine. When they break, I can switch to something else easily without stress. There's nobody.
Not when a bunch of people staring at you.
There are not like tens of thousands of people watching and waiting. We can wait. And plus, I do love the sound of a tube amp and the feel of a tube amp. It'll never totally beat out in the box, so to speak.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is fantastic.
I asked Patrick too about, you guys have a clean stage. You've been doing that for years. What's your enjoyment been doing with that? Not only saving your ears, but what on a performance level, what has elevated you guys in that way? Not having any cabs or any noise. It's just, we saw your guys sound check and it was dead silent except for Andy and his pesky drums.
It is, yeah. Unless Chad, our front of house guy, puts us in front of house.
Yeah.
No one hears anything. I think for going over things that we are terrible at playing at first, it's nice to not have everyone hear us rehearse.
Yeah.
We do like on this tour we do what's called the 8-ball song every night, where we play some song we haven't played in 15 years or ever. So it's good to have a little privacy to rehearse that. But then also I think when we're playing live, as much as I do to a degree miss the air from an amplifier, though I even when I was on a tube amp, I mean, eventually we did ISO cabs and that stopped happening too. I can really just cleanly dial in my mix, and I can really, I'm very hard on myself all around in general, so it's nice to be able to nitpick myself to like the nth degree and be like, nope, this has to be perfect. So try to, essentially try to improve our show as much as possible and really be able to hear everything.
What's been the experience, both as like in the enjoyment and maybe the frustration of, and the challenge of trying to either learn a song or remember a song that you guys, each night you're trying to tackle? What's that been like? Either learning on stage and sound check or just, adding to the set list in terms of energy?
I mean, it depends on the song.
Yeah.
I think it's just, we're all different. Everybody, listen, when someone pitches a song, we normally just go, sure, let's just do it.
Yeah.
Even if, for instance, it's a song I absolutely do not want to play whatsoever. I like rising to the challenge. Sometimes it yields awesome results. Other times it's remarkably dejecting. Most of the time the audience is just psyched no matter what, even if it's a train wreck. I think it's like rarely a train wreck. Ben, do you disagree?
No, it's rarely a train wreck.
You agree? He agrees.
He's going to get his next paycheck.
He's trying so hard. I'm going to beat the shit out of him after this.
Yes, you should.
Yeah, that fucker. No, and sometimes it's really fun. It's a mixed bag, but I think overall it's pretty cool. I think when overall we are pretty well played on the songs we do play.
Yeah.
Pretty professional. We will rehearse the set before the tour,
of course.
over and over. But these songs we don't rehearse, so there is that feeling of playing the club a little bit, and like just throw and go. This might fucking suck, and that's kind of fun, and it does like give you an injection of adrenaline and depression, depending on
Well,
I guess a dejection.
Well, like I was saying to Patrick, I caught you guys in 2002. In 2003 at Gabe's Oasis in Iowa City, so it's like I'm sure like coming full circle playing arenas
Gabe's
like
Oasis.
this. Yeah, man.
Oh man,
Still there.
Is it still there?
Swear to God.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
all right.
it's still standing, and there's
if God is real, then it is true.
There's piss on the walls still. Trust me, my friend.
Goodness, I'm glad there's piss on the wall still.
But it's in the sense that like it takes you guys back there, and it's like you're playing arenas now, but you're still with this new kind of set list change up in the Magic 8-Ball thing. It's you're interjecting that old energy into a well-oiled machine that you guys have become.
Yeah, and I wonder how it is for the crowd to see almost 2 hours of well-oiled against like 3 minutes of
chaos.
Like, I don't know. Like I think of bands, and some are clearly in my mind who will switch up their sets every night. But I know for a fact, because I know some of those people and I know some of the people that work for them, that their rehearsal process is insane. They rehearse all of those songs all of the time, which is why they sound so great when they do it. And we don't rehearse. I mean, we do rehearse those songs the day of the show. That doesn't mean they're going to be great when we do them. I can go in my dressing room and play that song the entire day and get up on stage and fucking biff it. Because there's a difference.
Yeah.
There's a difference playing in a room versus playing on stage. The energy changes. And then, I don't know. I was talking about it. One of my good friends has been a stand-up comic since the late 80s, early 90s. And we talk about it. He's like, do you still get nervous when you go on stage? I'm like, every fucking night. And he's like, yeah, me too. And I'm like, I suppose that means we care.
Yeah.
So there are nerves that come along with like going up on stage and then playing something you've never played.
Yeah. But it also gives you that exhilaration of either you're going to like, it's a live wire act. I mean, you obviously have no net, but and you're not dying, if you fall, but it's that energy that you guys probably still chase in terms of, again, well-oiled machine, but chaos brings a lot to it, and the fans get to feel like they get something special each night that, you know, wherever you guys are headed down next gig aren't, receiving, because, you know, you're going to switch it up and get a different song. So
Totally. It's something for the fans. I think for us, for me, it's the closest thing. It's like chasing the dragon for a sober guy. Because there is like that high. When you go for it and you nail it, you're like, yeah, I'm fucking really good. And when you don't, you're like, well, there's something in those drugs. Knocked something bad, you know? Got a bad dose. Yeah.
Well, on that note, no, as we should.
On that note, we're all going to do, we're going to mainline heroin.
Yes.
Right now.
We're going to do A and B's.
Quick cuts. We're going to quick cuts of setting it up, spooning it, you know, shooting it,
and
the
then
whole
we're going to
thing.
try it,
Yeah.
and then we're going to give them to kids.
Oh, God. I don't want to do that part.
Well, let's
But
talk
okay, if you say so.
let's talk about, we talked about the Zemaitis.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
seems like it's a heavy hitter for the set. Can we move on to the Explorer? I think there's a cool story behind it.
There's a great story
Yeah.
behind it. It's really sweet.
Because you were seeking this one out for a minute, right?
Yeah. So here's the deal. Is it never coming out? All right, this one's not coming out, guys. We gotta get a mini drone in that. So this is, you know, an 80s plum burst Explorer.
So that would be the name, or is that you just making it up?
I mean, when I looked it up on the internet,
So
it's somewhere between purple and plum burst.
Yeah.
Plum burst sounds like more like official,
Yeah.
but I mean, I was saying purple. I don't call it the Grimace,
Ooh.
but I do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But calling it the Grimace would be offensive to the person that got it for me. But it is a custom shop.
So an 80s custom shop
And
Explorer.
custom shop
And can
Explorer.
you tell us the origin story, how it became
Yeah.
yours?
So I was probably on my Instagram and Reverb popped up because I follow Reverb because I assume we all follow Reverb.
Yeah, right.
And this came on the scene. I'm like, oh my God! Like I kind of flirted with getting an Explorer, and I'm like, I don't know, man. It's just like I don't know if it's for me. I like some of the '80s ones with like the terrible stripes and stuff. I
Yeah.
just never committed. But I saw this, and I'm like, well, this is beautiful and incredible and unique, and maybe I should get it. And I hemmed and I hawed and I hemmed and I hawed. And this is what I do when I want something. I'm like, I'm gonna buy it. I'm not gonna buy it. And I was like telling everybody about it, and they're like, just fucking buy it, man. I'm like, I don't know. It's it's expensive and and I wouldn't do it. And then I think I called my accountant. I was like, I want to buy this guitar. He's like, just fucking buy the guitar. You're a musician. We can write it off. I was like, fine, I'll buy it. And this is like after a week or so
Okay.
of hemming and hawing. And then I pulled out my phone. I know exactly where I was. I was in the Highland Park area of Los Angeles, and I pull it out. I think I had just eaten a donut. I felt like shit.
You're crashing.
And I'm like, this is gonna fix everything. And then it was gone. And I was so sad. And I spent 2 nights not sleeping, looking online to see if I could find another one. You can't find another one.
No.
So, I was just like, I was kind of depressed. And then I almost bought like an 80s, like a pink sparkle, like Les Paul. I was like, oh, I guess this will be fine.
This is a good runner-up.
It's a placeholder. I mean, I was not into it. I was like just punishing myself. What an odd way, an odd and like extravagant way to punish oneself.
Yeah.
With a Les Paul. And then I was sitting out. I think I was walking outside to get something out of my car for my youngest daughter when my wife pulled up, and she was like, "Hey, I just had to grab something from work. Can you help me lift it out of my car?" And I went to the back of her car, and this guitar was sitting there. She bought it for me, and she videotaped it, and I kind of cried. I mean, I cried, and yeah, it was incredible. So that's why I don't want to call it the Grimace.
Yeah.
Because my wife got it for me. It was really sweet. I have an amazing wife. I mean, she was amazing before she got me the guitar, but but yeah, this just is a testament to that.
Here, I thought you were going to say it was for the love of Edge that you got this Explorer to, just be like him and his 76 Explorers.
It's for the love of Edge. It's a full, I didn't full circle.
I thought the Edge
I think
said
you just
bought
full
it for you.
Yeah. It's you full circled the thing. Oh man, if the Edge, if you're watching and you want to buy me a guitar, I'll totally accept it.
You can film me crying.
No, it is a little bit of Edge love. Growing up listening to like punk and hardcore metal, my brain always goes to Hetfield with these.
Yeah.
But the Edge is that's a very good place to go as well with this. It'll make me think differently when I play it on stage, but it sounds amazing. It sounded awesome, like right off the bat. And then Ben, what pickup did you put in the bridge?
Lawler pickup, and I forget the name of which one it was. Something with like a punk rock name.
Ooh,
It's
a
a
punk rock
it's
Lawler.
a Lawler punky pickup, but it sounds really great. Yeah, I play for a few songs every night. Yeah.
It's a great way to honor Grimace. I mean, you know, I don't know what you're calling it, but the plumbers.
I don't call it Grimace. I call it, I call it Sanders because when I met my wife, she asked me to guess her last name. I was like, I don't know, like fucking Sanders or something. That's not her. I mean, it's not her last name anymore, for sure. It's my last name, but that's also is not her maiden name. So I call it Sanders. Yeah. Yeah. So not Grimace, but you know, it does share a lineage with Grimace.
Lineage.
Yeah.
Well, I know that it might not get much airtime anymore, but can we quickly show the Squier?
Of course we can.
The namesake Squier.
I love the Squier. Yeah, well, this pickup is just falling right in there. This pickup lives in the guitar inside,
So that's
fully
not stock.
inside. Yeah, it's got some shrinkage. So yeah, this is, you know, when Fender used to like me.
Aw.
No, I don't really like me. So, my buddy, or our buddy, Billy Siegel. I don't know if Billy's still at Fender. I hope he is. If not, I hope he's thriving somewhere. I know
He's doing great things.
He's a lovely guy. But he used to take care of us, and he got us signature models, and he got me this signature model. And I love it. It's a great guitar. I haven't played it in a minute. We keep it as a backup to a backup to a backup.
It's there.
I'm very proud of the guitar. You can get them for very cheap on the internet.
Yeah, on Reverb, probably.
Secondhand, Reverb, eBay, probably. I'd go Reverb first for their, what it is, their safety. You know, when you buy a piece
purchase.
of gear, yeah, you pay a little more. But I don't work for Reverb, by the way. They're not paying me. But yeah, and yeah, we did. I don't think we really did any modifications to the guitar. It's pretty much just like the way it is. So. If Josh Newton modified this,
scientist.
I'm gonna fucking chase him down and I'm gonna curb stomp him. No, this guitar is great. It really is like, I think I was psyched when it came out and the reviews were like, yeah, you can kind of do like a lot of stuff with it. It's very like, I think that was the plan. I was like, I don't know if people are going to want to buy a guitar because of me,
Yeah.
but they may want it if my name is really hidden and it looks good, like kind of classic and not crazy different. But if there are a couple tweaks on there that just kind of like make it a little easier for anyone to pick it up and play anything they want to play, whether it's like country or rock,
Yeah.
Jazz. I don't know. Those are the three musics. That's
Yeah,
it. Country,
right.
rock, and jazz. That's it.
Now, that's probably the thought process behind the 3 pickups too.
That is the thought process. So you have, yeah,
Kind of got everything.
You have everything, yeah. It's a little bit of a Swiss Army knife. Without like, it's, you know, there's that urge to make something really strange and really weird, but I'm like, again, unless that's what I'm known for, then don't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Joe, I know the doors are a thing. They're happening soon, so I want to get you out to the safety before all these Fall Out Boy fans come and mob you.
Yeah, I guess so.
But thank you for your time, and we really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it as well.
Killer.
Thank you.
I'm now finally joined by Pete Wentz, bass player of Fall Out Boy. Oh wait, I'm sorry. This is his good-looking tech, Christian. Christian, how you doing?
Hey everybody, how's it going?
Real good, man. And you're filling in for another great tech, Josh Newton,
For Josh Newton, that's right.
who helped
Yeah.
set this up. So we love you, Josh. One of these days
Hi,
we'll cross
Josh.
paths yet again. So tell me about Pete's basses. We got a beautiful StingRay.
Yeah, Sterling by Music Man. This is the main one that he uses on the tour. As far as the first half of the show, if you see the show, you'll see there's 4 or 5 different acts.
Okay.
This particular one, I believe he got maybe last summer sometime. Got this custom paint job on it. Not much to say except for it looks really cool. It's passive, it's not active.
Okay.
It does have, like all of his basses, the hip shot tuners on it, the drop tuners, which for every one of their songs could be, that's all it is, E or D. They're not really exotic when it comes to tuning. So,
Yeah.
So it works out pretty well for Pete. But yeah, this one plays really super well, and the finish on it, that's why he loves it. That's why it's his #1 right now.
It's got the humbucker in it. It's got the
Yeah.
roasted maple neck and fretboard.
Absolutely.
And I imagine Ernie balls with a connection with Sterling.
These are Ernie balls, yes, for sure.
And for people keeping score at home, what gauges these are on?
What is these? 45 to 105.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of adventurous basses in here, so I'd love to
Yes,
cruise
there
through these,
is.
Christian, as the doors are open.
Let's
so
go to
we'll,
the next
we'll make
one.
this quick business.
Yeah. This is everybody's favorite. And this would be
That's the money shot right there.
Money shot.
That is
Oh.
wild.
This is the Snow Globe custom bass. We use this for one of the scenes only for a couple songs. It's pretty darn heavy. I don't know if you want to check it out.
Yeah, wow.
We believe it's full of antifreeze. It could be some other substance. Chances are it's antifreeze.
Yeah.
Same type of deal. We got this, I think, just this month ago, probably. They made it just for him. And yeah, he enjoys it. He uses it for a couple songs, but not too many because it's too damn heavy.
Now, I'm going to ask a really dumb guitar/bass gearhead question.
Sure.
Does it sound any different than these other ones? Obviously, because we got pickup, we got fretboard, but it is...
It does sound more mellow.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there is something there.
Quite a bit, yeah. Tone knob or not, it sounds mellow.
Okay.
Compared to the other ones by far.
And do you know from set list what, like, I know that there's scenes and parts of the set through the production, what this actually comes out on?
It's, gosh, like 4 or 5 songs in. It's when we start doing, there's like snow coming out to the audience. It's a fantasy sequence.
Okay.
There's a giant rabbit that comes out, and you'll see. It's pretty trippy.
You have to see it.
Yeah, you got to go see it. I'm not gonna give too much away.
Okay. So let's move on down the line.
And we have our famous 8-ball bass. It's another one we got within the past month. Same type of deal. Passive electronics, nothing active on it. Yeah, I don't know what to say except it looks really cool. This is the one we usually finish up with encores. There is a Magic 8-Ball part to the show, and he will be using this guitar during the Magic 8-Ball portion of the show. Sounds very similar to the orange one.
Okay.
Nice,
yeah, I
nice
imagine
and bright.
More, closer
it's
in line.
Not as mellow as the Snow Globe one.
And there's a fourth final bass?
There is a 4th final bass, which is super special. And this would be very unique. The Sterling Music Man Pete Wentz Flamethrower bass. You're not going to get these in a store, I don't believe.
You don't think that you can get these at Sweetwater?
I don't think Sweetwater sells this yet. But yeah, primer, switch, and if you see behind there, you'll see we got some canisters going on. Yeah, this is not definitely for a beginner. We use this a couple times during the show, and yes, flames do come out of it, so
yeah,
that's
we can
kind
attest.
of our, sometimes we want to be Kiss, and we are. We can do it. Also, feel the weight on that.
Wow. Man, that's
pretty good. Pete's really strong to hold this. Trust me.
Because I've never interviewed anybody that's dealt with a pyro bass. Does it throw off the tuning?
It does not actually. Ironically, it holds really well. We change the strings in this maybe once or twice every couple weeks.
Okay.
Because it's only used for a couple songs, so it's not really getting used that much. But it holds tuning really well. I can't complain.
And since the setup on this is not normal, what in terms of the mechanics of what's going on in the headstock and the behind here, what are you making sure is working so that someone isn't getting scorched?
It's no different than any bass in terms of the mechanics of it, except for we have a primer here and we have a switch here. As long as this switch is down, nobody's going to get burned.
Okay.
If this switch is up, then there's a problem. So we don't want that. We don't want to put it back in here. It could just light everything. We don't want the Michael Jackson 1984 thing. We want to make sure that that primer and that switch that is down. That primer is not being touched. Especially for me, because I'm not the one flamethrowing or playing. So
now, are you the one on staff, where in case Josh is here, Josh Newton, that are testing out the pyro bass, or is that like a fire Marshall Bill thing?
That's the pyro guys. Our pyro team will go out and test it, and then we do with the fire department before the show, like like the rest of the pyro as well. But I usually have nothing to do with that. I just tune it and hand it to him, and he goes to town. That's pretty much it.
I mean, really, the whole time, if I was playing any type of this instrument and on that song that you're playing, I would just be wanting to get to that point when I can ignite, the flame.
I think
let alone the song, I could care less.
I think if you see the show, he pretty much feels that too, because he starts off just flame throwing away, man, and then he goes into playing. But no, this is a really cool bass. It's my first time dealing with something like this, and yeah, it's a joy to do. This is really cool.
I don't know if the neck came roasted on this one, but it might be with the pyro.
It might have happened over time. Yeah, I don't know. It's roasted now, though, for sure.
One last thing we've noticed on all the basses is what's the story behind the black duck or goose and the red eye?
I know that's Pete's thing.
Okay.
I'm not really sure the entire story behind that, but that's his own.
Okay, I just didn't know if there was a certain story that you knew or anything.
No, it's also on his. You can see some of these picks. You'll see the same thing. So there you go. Have a pick.
Well, the mystery. Oh, hell yeah! The mystery lives on.
Yeah, there you go. That's his own thing. I'm not sure anything about it though.
And what's not a mystery is what he's running, I guess not on stage, but off stage here. He is yet another digital guy, but running a different flavor. The guys over away had the Fractal 3, XFX3, and then they had the Quad Cortex. But Pete's going here.
Pete's doing it like I wish everybody would do it, honestly. He's just going wireless, Shure wireless direct into this JX44 radial, and then he's got 2 Line 6 HX Stomps, just for redundancy, so he's only using 1, not 2.
Yeah.
And it's pretty straightforward. Last summer it was programmed pretty much 1 patch for the entire show.
Okay.
It does change in terms of effects, so we do have them named down there kind of specially for chorus and distortion.
Okay.
So there are songs where that does change. You have to kind of do the whole dance. But there's also a couple patches that are dedicated to tunings in particular that we don't really want to mess with, like D standard is one of them. And the good thing is about the HX, it just can model that without tweaking the strings so much.
Zeros and ones.
Yeah, exactly.
And so the SansAmp, I know that we talked before we started rolling here, that's just kind of there for backup reasons?
That's the backup. That is what he was using probably about a decade ago, I understand. But that's our backup in case anything goes wrong. Nothing goes wrong though, so.
Thanks, Line 6.
Nothing ever goes wrong. So we're good. That's why the other Line 6 is there. Yeah, that's pretty much it. It's a straightforward, again, I wish everybody would do it this way. It makes my job easier.
Yeah, right. A lot more time for sandwich and talk about dummies.
Yeah, more caffeine.
Well, Christian, thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Everyone at Fallout Boys Camp's been awesome. Hope you guys dig this rig rundown. We'll catch you in the next one.
Strings have a lot to do with your tone. The NYXLs for me have always tonally been great. I really need that friction to feel my slides. I depend on that friction even for accuracy.